Good luck, sir. Yeah. Hello and welcome to episode 847 of the Player One podcast for Tuesday, February 7th, 2023. I'm your host, Chris Johnston, and with me, as always, from the frozen north of Canada, Mr. Greg Seward.
Hello.
Yeah.
It was the frozen north this
there?
weekend. With wind chill, it was minus 43 degrees centigrade,
Oh,
which
that sounds cold.
I don't know how that translates to Fahrenheit. I think that's actually getting pretty close to the same number. Fahrenheit.
That's probably like 23 degrees Fahrenheit.
Yeah, but anyway, I think it was a record. I think we set a record.
Oh man,
this weekend. So, and then tomorrow it's supposed to be like 10 degrees again. So, which is warmer than freezing here.
What was the temperature again?
Minus 43 centigrade.
Minus 43.
What's the conversion on that, Philip?
It's minus 45 Fahrenheit.
Wow.
So I told you the numbers are getting real close at that point. That's cold.
Minus 40. Wait, minus 45 Fahrenheit?
Yeah.
That's pretty cold.
Is that like counting like wind chill factor? Or?
It was the wind chill, yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
It was
okay.
It was minus 27 to 30, I think.
What is that in Kelvin?
Regular?
It was still quite like there was steam coming off the ocean water because the air was so cold. So
Wow.
Mm.
Yeah, minus 30 for you is minus 22 for us, which
it's still pretty cold.
I'm going to say that's pretty cold.
It is pretty cold. Let's
Yeah, it's not
stay
normal
indoors
here.
weather.
It was stay indoors weather. It was very
Put
much
away those roller skates,
yeah,
folks.
It was
Minus-
very much a like, heat the house the day before, get all the heaters going. And especially because I don't know if it is around you, but heat pumps are a big thing around here. Most houses have heat pumps, but they tend to freeze up in extremely cold weather. So
how ironic.
Yeah, right. So it was like, get your house warm and rely on your insulation to keep it warm. So yesterday where the kids weren't yesterday where the kids weren't even home this weekend, they're with their mother. I didn't even crack open a door the whole day. I stayed in the house all day and cleaned and played video games and
I'm just a big toasty cinnamon bun.
That's exactly it. That's what it was. I had like 4 blankets on the bed.
I'm just gonna play some Vampire Survivors.
Yep. Break out the Steam Deck. Don't even get out of bed. It was awesome.
Exactly. All right. And joining me from the great state of Washington, Mr. Phil Theobald.
Greetings, fellow stargazers.
Greetings
Hello there.
and salutations, sir.
How's it going?
It's going good.
Good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It ain't.
Yeah.
It ain't in the negatives here, temperature wise.
No, it's like 47 degrees outside here.
It's
balmy.
All things considered.
Yeah, that's right.
We just both describe it as balmy.
We did.
Look at us.
Balmy. We're on that same wavelength.
Pacific Northwest, baby.
Yep.
Balmy.
Yeah. Yeah. So hey.
Yeah.
Went to this thing yesterday. May know that I happen to enjoy recreations of sitcom sets.
You're the only person I know that goes to this sort of thing.
Occasionally happen. We did the Office experience in Chicago back in 2020.
But the Office took place in Scranton, not Chicago.
I know. Crazy, right?
This is an AU version.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
What's that?
The alternate universe.
Oh, there you go.
The Office metaverse.
Yeah.
They recreated the sets and all that, and we had a fun time at that. And they've done these for like various sitcoms over the years, and there's a Friends one that has been in New York City for a long time, and that went to touring, went out on the road. The Friends hit the road and have landed in sunny Seattle.
A city known famous for its sunny.
Famous for its sunny
days.
Yeah,
no.
Correct. So we went to that yesterday.
Oh.
As a family, because we all love Friends. My daughter really loves Friends as well. And so we went to the Friends experience and had our picture taken, various recreations of the sets and moments from the show, things like the couch
Pivot.
Ross
Pivot.
moving the couch pivot thing, yeah. And
I've never
Central
actually seen an
Perk.
episode of this show.
You've
Really?
never
That's
seen an
pretty
episode
nice.
of Friends?
It was a
I've
fun
not.
show.
I've seen bits. I've seen enough bits of it to know that I probably wouldn't enjoy it.
You wouldn't enjoy it.
Probably
You're
not.
saying. Okay.
But
Yeah.
Phil doesn't like comedies.
I liked the first 2 seasons, and then it went just straight down in the
oh
shitter.
really?
No, I'm just
Yeah,
kidding.
it's
The first 2 seasons were the better seasons.
I kind of checked out at the end of the series run, but
I
it was
see.
just fun. I mean, the best thing that happened to that show for me was that it was on right after Seinfeld at the beginning. So
Oh yeah.
I was already watching TV anyway. Let's see what this is about.
Right before 2020 comes on. I mean,
Right before.
yeah.
Yeah, me and my roommates were big 2020 fans.
And I was
so,
always tuning in for 2020.
yeah.
Oh man, what's Hugh Downs gonna say tonight?
Something crazy.
Yeah. So anyway, we did that and then hung out in Seattle and ended up staying overnight in Seattle, which was fun.
Oh, nice.
Kind of having a bit of a vacation
In
you might
Seattle.
say, in Seattle, which is an hour away from where
I was gonna say, isn't that
out
like a
of the
commute?
house?
we're out of the house. Exactly.
No, that's
Yeah.
that's great.
Mini vacation. But anyway, it makes me think of what other shows we might want to go to an experience of. And this being
Oh,
Seattle,
CJ's working on a bit.
we're thinking
is
like
great.
where's the Frasier experience, right? Like,
Well, I mean, you're living in it, buddy.
I guess we're living it.
This is. I mean, what more do you want?
That's right.
You're in Seattle.
It's
I
true.
forgot Frasier took place in Seattle.
Yes, it did.
It did. Yeah.
Yeah.
Or the Cheers experience.
But Cheers was Boston.
Cheers was Boston. Yeah.
Well, it can tour. If the Friends
tour.
can, did Friends take place in New York?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry.
I will say the Office experience was much better in part because that's like an easy enough to recreate. It's easy enough to recreate an office.
All
right?
takes place in a pretty small
It
space.
takes place in a
Right.
pretty small space.
Yeah, where Friends, you had like the 2 apartments and the staircase and the coffee shop, and yeah.
More difficult to do that. And since this one is touring around, they only had like part of Monica and Rachel's apartment, only the kitchen. That was
Okay.
the only part of it. And then like part of Central Perk, and then like a recreation of the stairwell where the pivot thing is. And they had a couple recreations, but it wasn't as what I'm saying is it wasn't as fun or thorough as the Office experience was. But it was fun. It was still fun. We had
I think they should do a Big Bang Theory experience just so we could hear a bunch of nerds complain about it.
I think I've only seen an episode or 2 of that show.
I haven't
I
seen
have-
an
I
episode
have
of that.
no
either.
desire really to watch that show.
Nerds
Yeah.
get unreasonably angry about the Big Bang Theory.
I
I
just
think
don't
it's
care about it. Apathy.
I'm
apathy.
very angry about it.
Yeah.
Would you like me to spend the next 45 minutes telling you why?
Please do. Go
I'm so
ahead.
upset?
See, there you go in our chat.
Issue
Already
one.
having-
I don't.
You got nothing.
I have no opinion. I've never seen the show.
So speaking of sitcom stuff,
Mhm.
I've been sitting on this for a while. I'm glad I didn't break it because I've been sitting on it for months. The Office Lego set.
Uh-huh.
Oh,
Finally
yeah.
put that together this weekend. And I'll tell you what, I think the fact that the type of set, like you just said, like, I mean, The Office was obviously filmed in a location that was enclosed. It was a real enclosed space.
Yes.
It wasn't a set.
It
Right,
was
it
a
wasn't a-
set.
Of course,
But
it
I'm
was a
saying
set.
But I'm saying it
It
wasn't
was
like a
a set,
traditional
though.
television set, where it's like all open on one side and
You sure about that?
pretty positive.
What
What I'm
have
saying
sections
is-
of the wall they could take out.
Okay, yes.
Yes.
That's the point I'm trying to make.
I mean, they
Like,
got to
not
get
live
cameras
in
and
front of-
things.
you look
Not
at
live
something
in front
like,
of a studio audience.
let me
where
finish.
it's open,
Yes,
yeah.
that was my point.
Okay.
where it's versus something like Friends or Seinfeld, like Seinfeld's apartment, where everyone loves to talk about how it's got impossible dimensions, right? Like his hallway can't exist because his kitchen's right there, and like there aren't any square corners in there, whereas the Office set is that way or was that way.
Mm-hmm.
And it makes for like not a very display friendly Lego set.
Huh.
You kind of have to go exploring in that set to find the cool stuff. Whereas I have like the Seinfeld TV set, and it's like you just put that on a shelf and it's easy to see. And what I'm saying is I was a little bit disappointed with the Office Lego set.
I see.
Overall.
Yes.
It was okay.
I need to put that together.
Yep.
I have not.
I hope you like putting stickers on things.
Or the Seinfeld set. I have not
There
done.
are two sheets of stickers to put on.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
One for every phone.
Yeah.
Oh.
Every picture
Yeah.
on the wall.
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
Yeah. They didn't use very many printed pieces for some reason. Just the
No,
keyboards.
they don't for those type of sets, unfortunately.
Cheaped out.
Mm-hmm.
Seinfeld
Yeah.
set was better. But it was fun to relive sort of, the jokes from The Office and stuff.
Sure.
Just saying. It's a little bit disappointing.
When are we going to get more TV based Lego sets? I want a Hatch set from Lost. I want Breaking Bad. RV.
Bad.
Something tells me they're probably not going to do a Lego Breaking Bad set.
No? Why
That's
not?
It's a guess.
Just
Why
the
not?
lab. Just the lab.
It's
It's
mainly
family friendly.
It's mainly because Bryan Cranston won't sign off his likeness
His
rights.
likeness.
Yeah.
He's
That's
like
the only reason.
he's
Yeah.
like Tom Cruise that way.
Yeah.
I mean, you think back to like the 80s, we had a lot of cartoon shows and toys for movies that were not kid friendly.
Well, of course.
I mean,
Yeah, we
why
did.
not? Why not do a Breaking Bad Lego set?
Gremlins.
Ooh, Gremlins.
I
Is
mean,
that
we do have
kid-friendly? I don't know if we would consider that kid.
there are
friendly. They had
gremlins
Gremlin toys.
in Lego Dimensions.
Yes.
You can get a Gizmo and Stripe
They made it kid
minifigure.
friendly after the fact, but the movie certainly was not.
My parents thought I was going to have nightmares after we saw Gremlins, but I
I
don't
don't blame
not.
them.
I did not.
I loved Gremlins.
Me too.
Breaking Bad Mega Bloks set.
I would,
Mega Blocks will do it.
Playmobil.
They have no
Breaking Bad
morals.
Playmobil.
Ooh, Playmobil. Yeah.
Playmobil makes some good stuff.
Yeah. I recently saw the Back to the Future Playmobil
Yeah.
and was
The DeLorean looks
interested
good.
in, I don't know, maybe picking that up. I don't know. I'll have to think more about it and then never buy it.
Get the A-Team van.
My parents thought the A-Team was inappropriate for so we could watch Knight Rider, but
Because the black
we had
guy?
to turn it off. No.
Oh, just asking.
why was
It was a
Knight Rider
different
okay,
time.
but the A-Team wasn't?
I don't know.
It's the same show.
But I mean, the
basically
A-Team
the
even had a
same show.
Chicago connection because Mr. T was from Chicago.
Well, they had a lot more
Exactly.
guns in the A-Team. A lot more
did
violence.
have
I
a
think
lot
the
more
same number
guns.
of people died, though.
A lot more wanton violence.
Wanton violence.
Yeah. Freewheeling violence.
Ugh.
Let's say. But
Way
we could
more
watch Knight
fools
Rider, that was
pitied.
fine. We could watch Whiz Kids. Did
Love
you ever
Knight
see
Rider.
Whiz Kids?
No. But I remember watching a lot of Airwolf.
Kids?
Whiz Kids.
Yeah, you don't remember Whiz Kids? It was like some kind of computer club.
No.
What about Misfits of
Something you
Science?
used to watch at Kanye's
Now,
place?
Misfits of
or-
Science, hold on. Now, if we're
Misfits of
talking
Science.
Misfits of Science, yes.
Mhm.
There's and there's our tie back around to the Friends discussion.
Courtney Cox was in
Exactly.
Misfits of Science.
Mhm.
Yes. Manimal.
Manimal.
Okay.
It was one of
I
my
remember
favorites.
Manimal.
Although I rewatched Manimal and it's horribly boring.
It's terrible.
It's horribly boring.
Hmm.
I used to love that show back in the day, but it is god awful.
Manimal.
CJ's just running down a toy
Yeah, I know.
galaxy
I'm just doing, I'm just
Yeah.
list
going
here
with it.
of
Yeah.
his videos.
That's yeah. Should we talk about some video game news?
I think so.
Hey, did you watch that? Did you watch the Last of Us last week?
Oh yeah,
haven't,
I watched
actually.
it. Oh, you
The
didn't
third,
yet?
the third episode.
CJ,
No, I haven't.
You
got
got to
to
watch these so that we can talk about them a little bit the following week.
Okay,
Yeah.
I've heard it's great.
It was great.
Yeah, it's a good show. I'm enjoying The Last of Us.
Yes,
And there's the new episode tonight.
there is a new episode.
You know what? Hey, not video game related, but television related. You know what I watched the first episode of last night was the Poker Face.
Poker
Have you seen this show?
Who's in
Tasha
that?
Leone
Right.
and
I've heard
Ryan
that's worth watching.
Johnson.
Yeah, Ryan Johnson wrote and directed it. And it's like a Columbo riff. You know, it's like a mystery of the week type show.
Okay.
Yeah.
And we watched the first episode last night and it was quite good.
All right.
Quite enjoyed it.
Excellent.
So if you like mysteries, you should watch the Poker Face.
We're still in the middle of the White Lotus season 2. I don't know if you watched the White Lotus.
I have not.
Nah.
That's one Charlotte is not watching.
Oh, we're not violent enough.
Oh, it must be bad.
Too much sex.
Oh,
No. Yeah, it's not kid appropriate.
right.
But The Last of Us is.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Uh-huh.
speaking of The Last of Us, Pedro Pascal was hosting Saturday Night Live last night, and I don't know if you've seen this. They did a little parody bit of HBO picking up another video game license to do a show on, and it's Mario Kart.
Nice.
So
I did
it's like
see
a
that.
gritty
Yes.
Mario Kart television show trailer, and it is fantastic.
Sure, I'd watch that.
I would watch it too.
No.
Did you watch the
I did watch the
no.
video, yes.
The video? No?
No.
Okay. Well,
I just said yes.
No.
well Phil watched it. Greg
I
didn't.
watched it. Greg did not.
Yeah.
In case anyone's wondering, I did not watch it.
So go watch it. Everybody listening to this, go watch it. Stop the podcast, watch the video. It'll be in the show notes. But
I think a lot of
funny.
people already stopped the podcast.
Oh, that's a definite. Yeah.
Smart move.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Let's talk about this story from Bloomberg that came out last week, that Sony has allegedly lowered the sales projections or the production numbers for PlayStation VR 2 from 2 million units to 1 million units.
Bomba.
This, of course,
Is this a bomba?
It's kind of funny that so Bloomberg was the one that reported the 2 million number back in the fall. This is an exclusive. It was one of those, people familiar with the matter
Oh, okay.
told us that this was the case, and now people familiar with the matter are saying that it's going to be 1.5 million.
So what does this mean?
That there's
Absolutely
500,000
nothing.
fewer coming to market than we thought.
It means that the Mochizuki from Bloomberg has apparently heard they downgraded their shipping numbers. So
I mean, I wouldn't be surprised. Just say,
Yeah.
I mean, for as much as we know that original 2 million number was right, who knows? But
Yeah.
like, it's expensive, and up until even now, I mean, I guess if you're a Gran Turismo fan, and I say this as someone who did pre-order the thing this week after the Gran Turismo 7 news, because it is great to hear that the game is pretty much, except for the split screen, it's entirely playable in VR. And that's fantastic. Like they're really supporting it. But when you look at the lineup, otherwise, I'm not saying the lineup is bad, but it's not exciting.
Well, it's just that a lot of
stuff we've already played.
Yeah.
it's new versions of games that have been previously available on either PSVR 1 or Oculus.
Right.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. That's true.
now listening to people talk about their experience using the headset with the Gran Turismo 7 coverage, it was all glowing. I mean, like they're saying like there were a lot of people who were saying like, yes, it's expensive, but it is really nice tech.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So that's fantastic. Like, but I feel like they've done a poor job, at least up until now, of really driving that home. All it looks like right now is you're buying a super expensive headset for games you played 4 years ago.
Mm.
For the most part, and it's like, I think the cost is probably justified based on the technology that's in the headset, but they haven't done a great job of really selling that.
Well, it's hard to demonstrate some of
It
that
is.
stuff, right? I mean, you can mention it, but you don't really like get a feel for the effects
Until you have it on
actually
your
have the
head.
headset on. And
Yeah.
they haven't done any demo events outside of Japan.
Right.
So there's that. No Astrobot obviously is a big one. It is
That's my big
expensive.
thing. It's like when you know you can't show off how good it is unless somebody actually uses it,
Yeah,
you got to have something else that's going to draw them in. And right now you don't.
right. Um, no Astrobot. There'll be an Astrobot eventually, though.
If there was an
pretty
Astrobot,
confident.
they would have had to have raised the number of units to like 3 million.
I know,
Yeah.
right? Yeah, I mean, it's expensive in that it's obviously more expensive than the PS5 itself, but in terms
Right.
of, what it's doing, the technology inside it versus like a PC headset that's also wired, it's less expensive than that. So, but we're not looking at it from that frame of mind, right? We're
Right.
looking at it from the console side and the Quest side of things. And it's a different set of expectations there, I think. So
Yeah.
it'll be interesting to see once it comes out what the impressions are. Obviously we had the Gran Turismo impressions, which were very positive. We've had a couple Horizon Call of the Mountain impressions from CES. Let's see what the reviews are going to be, and hopefully they'll announce an Astrobot game. But definitely pick up Res Infinite and Tetris Effect Connected coming February 22nd for PS5 and PS4 too. That's all I have to say about that. And let's see. Did you know that a whole bunch of live service games are shutting down pretty quickly
shame.
here? Either they announced this week or last couple weeks. Avengers is one of them. It's going to shut down in the fall.
I knew about that one.
Rumbleverse from Iron Galaxy has not even been out 6 months.
Oh
and
my.
It's
Jesus.
shutting down. Knockout City announced that they are shutting down in June after the next season of content. Back for Blood, the developers have announced that they are stopping work on new content to focus on their next thing. So yeah, a lot of live service games are having a pretty bad week.
My goodness.
So like when these are shutting down, they're not going to patch it in any way that you can do like peer-to-peer or anything like that. Like it's pretty much they're just never going to work again.
So Knockout City, they said that they are going to like offer some kind of like open server thing where yes, it could be run and could still be played. Avengers, no. And Crossfire X is another one that is shutting down in May. And that one, Crossfire X, they did a whole single player campaign with Remedy. I don't know if you remember that whole.
I heard that.
And Crossfire X is a very popular battle royale out of Korea. And when that shuts down on Xbox, it's bringing the single player mode with it. You won't be able to play that either. So,
wow.
Yeah. But Back for Blood, as in the chat, someone's mentioning Back for Blood will continue to work. Yes, that's correct. They're just stopping development on that.
Another reason why I don't play service games.
I think my analogy in that they're like a concert is correct. Like eventually the music ends.
You just don't know when.
Bye. Knockout City.
The question
Your favorite band could be in the middle of a song and then just decide, well,
wait,
that's
so
enough.
is this like a concert where every time they start a new song they charge you an extra $50 or
No, it's every 3 months. It's Battle Pass. Come on. But it's sad to see some of those games go. Knockout City was pretty cool. Rumbleverse had a really good idea but it just didn't catch on, I think, with enough players. But hey, we still have Fall Guys until we don't, which who knows?
God, I haven't touched Fall Guys in forever.
Yeah, Fall Guys, Rocket League, Fortnite, all the hits. All right, let's do something on this story. IGN reporting that the big three, Xbox, Nintendo, and Sony, will not be a part of E3 2023. Of course, E3 2023 is a little different than previous years. It's being run by ReedPop and is an open to the public show, and it's a lot different than the E3s of previous years. However, Sony had already stepped out of E3 prior to the pandemic, so there's that. Xbox kind of had their own thing going on outside the show floor anyway, within LA Live.
That seems like such an FU. It's just like, we're not going to your show. We'll be at the parking lot.
Exactly. And then Nintendo, I think the last E3 they were at, they had a diminished presence anyway. So, yeah.
So, yeah, I was reading a blog post from somebody earlier this week about this, where they were sort of saying, like, they should have never opened the show to the public. And that was sort of the beginning of the end for E3. But I really feel like E3 was sort of eroding probably from the early 2000s. And I think once YouTube,
the public was already there.
Well, that was the other thing. I sort of responded to him. It's just somebody I know, and I responded to him on Facebook just to say, like, you know, speaking as someone who was co-running a tiny website like so many of us were in the late 90s, there were a whole bunch of people who went on credentials from our website who did not work at our website.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, that was very normal. You guys have talked about CES the same way, getting into CES with, you know, questionable credentials. So, I mean, the public was already there. And, you know, yes.
Are you claiming that I was not a buyer for the entire company of Babbage's?
At what age?
Let's say 17.
Skyrocketing to the top.
I didn't have corporate buying power while I was still in high school.
But yeah, I mean,
technically, you were a buyer at Babbage's.
I certainly bought things there. Yes,
he definitely bought his video games from Babbage's. Yes,
yeah,
that's true. But yeah, so and also, you know, calling out that it created huge lines.
It did.
But again, I remember going in the late 90s and there were huge lines.
Yes.
So
even in the early 2000s,
not saying that making it open to the public didn't make things worse. I'm sure it did. I didn't experience it, but I think that it's had way more to do with a lot of different things. I mean, there have been a lot of other sort of conferences and events that have popped up all over North America. It used to be E3 was the only place to go, period. It was the event.
It's true.
Now you've got like Jeff Keighley doing his Summer of Games thing, and you've got PAX, and you've got all these other places you can go. And also, YouTube around 2005 when it was really starting to, I think that's when it started, YouTube. But either way, when it started to get big, you really, you know, it took out the middleman being the press. You know, you don't need the press like you used to. So I don't know how you fix E3. I guess, you know, good on them for trying, but I don't know, man. I don't think they changed fast enough, and now it's not important anymore.
I mean, I think you turn it into a show for the public. I think you turn it into a summer version of PAX in LA. And I think it's fine that the public's allowed to go. I think, you know, in previous years, even the last time I went, which was 2018, you know, they had a lot of events that were geared more towards the public at that time. And I thought that was great. And I love shows like PAX and, you know, get some excitement around video games, just the community around video games and the developers themselves. Like, that's fine. Turn it into something like Comic-Con, you know, like, I think that's fine. I think maybe that's what we need.
Yeah.
Like, a lot of the business from E3 was being done outside the show anyway. Like, if you ever walked through the lobby of the JW Marriott during E3, that's where all the business was happening.
Yep.
There was no business being done on the show. Well,
it's like GDC. GDC is the same way.
GDC is exactly the same way. Yeah.
Um,
The show itself is more for a different audience, I guess.
but I think like like in the late 90s when it started, what was it, 95 when it started, so mid 90s. It was such a different landscape too. There were much few. What's the word? How I'm trying to say this. There were fewer game companies in general, right?
Yeah.
You only had like the major platform holders in the PC that you had to deal with. You didn't have mobile. You didn't have service games. You didn't have the ton of indies that we have now.
Right.
The press corps was much smaller and way more important than they are now.
Yeah.
And print was where most of the information was still coming. The internet was there, but that's not where people were going for information at that point.
Mhm.
So it was a much smaller thing in general. Like now, the official press for games doesn't matter nearly as much, because you've got influencers and YouTubers and things like that you have to deal with instead. And I think a lot of these places too realize that back then you were going to E3, and part of the plus for E3 was that the press was there. The TV cameras could be there. The interviews happened there. Now we're in a situation where you can, set up a fairly cheap camera and some lights in a small room and call it a studio with a decent microphone and just blast that out across multiple versions of social media.
Sure.
And the other thing that it's done now is, and I remember working in development for E3, and you guys both experienced this too. Man, E3 is disruptive for game developers.
Yeah.
I mean, my first game dev job, I ended up being the person that they put on the E3 demo project, right? Because they had to give it to somebody. Nobody wanted to do it because we're in the middle of development.
Right.
It's like, here, you crunch for 2 weeks with like one artist and one dev and try to put something together for this game that's not nearly ready to be shown. And now
I don't think people realize how much of a lift that is to make like
Mhm.
a show demo, or even like putting together like trailers and stuff. Like it's a pretty big, potentially
Mhm.
disruptive
operation.
operation
Cost a ton of money.
with months of planning usually.
Mhm.
Like I know a lot of people seem to think like, oh, somebody unveiled this at this time because they are responding to this thing that happened last week. It's like, no, that's not really how that happens, because a lot of this stuff is in motion months in advance.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Like it just,
Anyway, I was just thinking about it a lot when, hearing about it sucks that the big three are out. But I don't blame
There's a
them.
lot of indie devs now. There's a lot of like smaller publishers like, Raw Fury or Thunderful or, Focus Home Entertainment, or
Mhm.
like the Embracer Group stuff. Like there's a lot of games coming from a lot of different directions. And, so what if you can't line up for 8 hours to play Tears of the Kingdom? Like you'll still see a heck of a lot of games, and hopefully they'll have, ReedPop runs a lot of these shows. They run packs anyway, right? Like, so they have to know like how to run a show like this. I think we'll see some of that. And Jeff Keighley's coming in like with Summer Games Fest, but around the same time. Let's see what he's going to offer.
I just think, and I think it goes back to the conversation we were having last week about the shadow dropping for Hi-Fi, whatchamacallit, that Hi-Fi game.
Rush.
Hi-Fi Rush, thank you.
Yes.
Where it was almost refreshing to have a game to play that you knew nothing about. That you weren't just you hadn't been inundated with information about it for the past 2 years. Like I read something on Twitter today about somebody complaining that, Zelda is getting really close and we don't know anything about it. And I'm like, why complain about that? That's awesome. I'm so happy I don't know anything about it. Like, I'm so happy I haven't been inundated with screenshots and videos of that game for the last 3 years.
Yeah.
I like that better. I like the shorter PR cycle for games. Like 3 to 6 months is like the sweet spot. Like,
right. I will say that back in the day when you were getting most of your information from monthly magazines, a longer PR cycle made sense
Absolutely.
because you were only getting those info drops once every 30 days,
Yeah.
not once every 30 minutes like you do now.
Well, only on weekdays, not on the
True.
weekends.
Weekends are your time off. Yeah.
Weekends it's pretty quiet usually.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, I was just thinking about that a lot this week when I saw that news.
Yeah, and then sort of paired with it, there was some talk like, oh, well, Nintendo doesn't have anything major for the second half of the year. I was thinking like, okay, but they have Tears of the Kingdom, and
Yeah.
isn't that kind of all that matters? Like anything, you compare almost anything Nintendo has to a new Zelda, and it's going to seem diminished, right? But also, not a whole lot leaks from Nintendo, so how do you actually know that they don't have anything major for the second half
It's fair.
of the year? Like, Nintendo, year upon year, they usually have like a game release every month or so. Even if they're not like huge titles, they still do well usually with the Nintendo fan base. So I don't know. I'm skeptical of that opinion that Nintendo doesn't have anything major for the
Haven't we
second
been
half
hearing
of the
that?
year.
Haven't we been hearing that for years anyway?
Yes,
It's always
Yeah.
something.
Nintendoomed is
Nintendoomed.
back in vogue in 2023. But I'm looking forward to seeing more of Tears of the Kingdom whenever that may happen. I'm gonna be buying the hell out of that. I'm gonna be pre-ordering it with vouchers, probably.
Jesus.
As soon as it's available for pre-order, I will do it. Anyway, and there is the rumor that there's going to be a Nintendo Direct this week. We'll see if that ends up being true. And apparently, Walmart has signage that Advance Wars Reboot Camp 1 and 2 is available now. So we'll see if that happens as well.
I'm interested in that.
It could be an exciting week, but we'll just have to see. Anyway, did we talk about vouchers, or did I just dream
You
that?
just did.
All right. Vouchers are back on the Nintendo eShop. As somebody who's all digital and a member of Nintendo Switch Online, I will definitely be partaking in this because it saves like $20 on full price digital purchases, and Nintendo games don't go on sale a whole lot. I don't know if you know that. But then also you get the gold coins, which can then be used on new digital purchases as well. So it's like saving $20 and also getting like $10, $12 to spend on digital games. So I'm all in on that.
You got to spend money to make money.
Mm-hmm.
That's right.
If you don't buy them, it's like you're losing money.
Yep.
Correct. Yeah, and I'm all digital anyway, so I may as well save the money. Anyway, let's get into what you've been playing. Phil.
Oh boy. Yeah.
I've called on you, sir.
It was aggressive.
Okay.
What do you got?
Let me tell you, I notice I'm gonna spoil a little bit of your guys' what you've been playing. I see you two have been playing the Dead Spaces.
Yeah.
Which I have not.
Aw.
I've put Dead Space on hold because I am focusing my time and energy on the Hi-Fi Rush, a hot new game that was shadow dropped so recently.
Yes.
And I see it's not in. If you guys stop playing,
I didn't play anymore. No.
Yeah, I put it on. I put it on hold with. Not that I'm not enjoying it, but
yeah.
I got to the level where you learn to do the
Perry.
Yeah.
And I finished that level. I'm like, I think I'm good for now. Like
Yeah.
I'll go back to it, but I think it goes back to what we were talking about before. The levels are too long.
They definitely are.
Yeah.
Way too long.
Yeah.
So I'm just like I'm
There's
still
a lot of
enjoying it,
running
but I'm not dying
sections
to
where
play it
you
some more.
don't run very
There's
fast,
nothing happening.
and there's not much happening.
Yeah.
in some of
I
those
am
parts.
yeah, the levels are definitely longer than they should be. I have gotten into the habit of just suspending the game and taking breaks when I need to.
Yeah.
That's a good idea. Using that quick resume.
Before I was just trying to like clear a whole stage every time I pop into the
Yeah.
game. it's not as easy to do as I would like that to be.
Yeah.
So I've just been pausing in the middle of levels and stuff like that. But I am still playing it, and I'm still having a blast with it. I'm obviously a few levels ahead of you guys, considering you've stopped playing for the moment. But I've reached a point where, I talked about it last week. There was another character you can call in to smash open those kind of cracked doors and things like that. I have since unlocked another character to call into battle. Who can I don't know if you've noticed playing through the game, like sometimes there'll be like a door that will have like flames
Yes.
blocking it.
That.
There's a character who can dissipate those flames to let you through those entrances. And boy, I'm kind of getting into the vibe of the game. I think last week I talked about how I was terrible with the rhythm aspect of the fighting.
Yep.
I have been improving now that I'm playing it more and just again just kind of like getting into the vibe and the feeling the beat of it.
Mm-hmm.
So my scores are improving, and I'm actually having a lot more fun with the combat now because of that. And boy, oh boy, that game, once you start kind of getting the hang of the fighting mechanics, you're doing a lot of crap during the battles because not only are you hitting your light and heavy attacks in time with the beat, but you're also doing the rushing dodge around. You're doing the shooting the rope out to pull yourself into the bad guys. You're parrying stuff. You're constantly switching between the 3 characters you can call in because they all do different things to the enemies. So you're just like, okay, I'm going to get Peppermint in, boom, 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 and have her destroy a shield. I'm going to have this other character come in and dizzy people. So once you're in the middle of a fight and it gets going and you kind of have your head wrapped around everything, it is nuts, but it feels really good because it's like, you really feel like you're kind of in tune with the game. You're kind of one with the battle system. So yeah, so I'm still having a blast with it. The characters are great. The dialogue is a lot of fun. The animation, of course, is wonderful. So yeah, I'm still having a great time with it.
Cool.
I know people were saying like, oh, it's only 6 hours, but I don't think it's quite that short. Maybe I'm just
it's closer
around
to 12,
too much.
I hear.
What's that, Greg?
I heard it's closer to like 12.
Oh, okay.
10 to 12.
Yeah, I mean, I've been playing it for a good while now, and I still have a few bosses to defeat. So yeah, I don't think it's as short as people were originally saying, unless you're just like really flying through it.
I think that was a troll.
Oh, really?
Yeah, probably to get a whole conversation about how short games aren't worth anything.
I hate that discussion.
Yeah,
I really don't agree.
No, I do not either. But yeah, I'm having an absolute blast with this game, and I'm assuming there's got to be some sort of new game plus or something when you finish it.
I would assume because some of those doors you passed, and you didn't have the ability to go through them. So yeah, I assume.
Yeah, and there's some clever boss fights. There was a boss fight that was relied heavily on the parrying, which was a neat little change up. And there's just some funny parts. Like there was a post boss fight cinematic yesterday when I was playing, and I was just I'm playing. Dana's watching me play, and the two of us are just cracking up like idiots at some of the comic stuff in the game. So yeah, I'm having a blast with it.
The creative director John Johannes has been on a couple of podcasts recently that people might want to check out. So he was on the 8-4 Play podcast this past week, and then also on the Xbox Expansion Pass.
Oh, nice.
podcast. There's an interview with him on that as well. So
Cool.
people looking for more info on that, the creative director's doing the rounds.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's fantastic. And I mean, yeah, like we were saying, the levels are too long, and yeah, there are big stretches where you just kind of feel like you're going down hallways. But yeah. But it's I'm still having a really good time with it, so Hi-Fi Rush 2 could be even better. Gotta leave some room for improvement, I guess.
Yeah.
It'll
be a battle royale multiplayer only service game.
Oh, how heartbreaking would that be?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. We've turned it into an asymmetrical multiplayer experience.
Oh, wait, now I'm interested.
Okay, there we go. I didn't put this on my list just because I only barely tried it, but I did boot up the demo for SteamWorld Build.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, which seems promising. But I was playing. Was it last night when I booted that up? I don't know if I just wasn't in the right mindset. Because there's it's a city building simulation, so there's a lot of reading and figuring out menus and menus within menus. And I was just like, I can't deal with this right now.
Yeah.
So I did not get terribly far in that demo. I think I'm going to have to dive back into it later when I'm more in the mood to read. But
it bothers me when demos go up on Steam that don't have controller support, because I'm a console gamer.
Right.
And yeah, I'm playing it on PC or the Steam Deck, but I would really like to have controller support.
Does that one not have controller support?
No.
Okay.
And it's coming. I mean, that game's coming to console, so I was expecting it to have controller support, but it did not.
Yeah, I was. I was just using the keyboard and mouse just because I figured that would make more sense for this type of game.
Sure. Yeah.
But you use the WASD to maneuver the camera around, and you can scroll wheel to zoom in and out.
Yep.
But to rotate the camera around, which it seemed like you kind of had to do pretty frequently to get a good angle on whatever you're building at the moment, you got to like press the middle mouse button in.
Oh.
And then move the mouse while you're holding the middle button, and it didn't seem to work.
The middle button? Wouldn't it be the right mouse button?
Like
would be better.
The scroll wheel.
Oh, okay. Well, that's not good.
Yeah, you push the scroll wheel in and then move the mouse to kind of rotate the camera, and it was not working terribly well. So I got to see if maybe you can adjust that somehow. But I don't know.
There's probably like a Steam Deck controller layout that I could
hopefully
boot into, but
yeah,
because people do custom layouts for controller games that don't support controller.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay. But yeah, that's what I've been playing.
I see. All right. Well,
yeah,
I have been playing Dead Space.
Me too.
And yeah, I am going through it fairly slowly. I'm only in chapter 2, so not very far.
I don't think I'm much further ahead. I think I'm like chapter 3.
It's like an hour and a half, 2 hours in.
Yeah.
I'm really enjoying it. It's kind of funny that like now when the music starts to get tense, I immediately look around. Like when the game first came out, like I think I didn't notice those musical stings as much as I do.
Oh,
now.
Really?
I don't think so.
God, I always played that way.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe I did, but anyway, there have been quite a few jump scares already.
It's funny playing it now because it's been long enough since the original came out that I remember like sort of the main story beats, but I've forgotten so much about the game.
Same.
So it feels very new. One thing I'd forgotten about it that I kind of love is like it's such a Monster Closet game, but they just show them to you constantly to the point that you're gun shy about it. Every time I go into a room and I see one of those stupid panels with a fan on it, I'm like, Okay. All right.
Yeah.
But
Or hey, I'm in this room with a bunch of dead bodies around. One of these is going to be a monster that pops up and attacks me, right? So I
yeah,
preemptively cut the
shoot them
limbs
all. Yeah,
off
Yeah.
the things that are on the floor, and sometimes they get up.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I mean, I'm still enjoying it so much.
It's a good
I
game.
am too. It is a great game for sure. And I love it for the moments of quiet in the
Mm-hmm.
game because there are jump scares in the game and yeah, monster closets, but there's a lot of walking around where not much is happening.
Like Hi-Fi Rush.
But there is like it accentuates the moments where there is something happening a lot more. And I like some of the improvements they've made to like you press in the right analog stick and it presents to you a line on where you should go for your main objective. You don't have to go that direction. Oftentimes there are rooms that will have things you can loot off in the
Mhm.
corner that are not on that line. But the thing that it does that I like this time around is it also pops up a little message on this is what your next objective is,
Oh, they didn't do that before?
which the original did not do. And I know that
Okay.
because I played some of the original Dead Space on Xbox 360 this week over Xbox Cloud Gaming. And I played it last night while we were in the hotel. And no message on what your next objective is. It just puts that line down and
Okay.
it's up to you what happens after that. But and yeah, the original, although it still looks good, it does not look as good as the remake, obviously.
Well, I would imagine. Yeah. Yeah.
So
No, it just got it got the tension. That game built tension so perfectly. And one thing that I don't know if I remember this before, but it's really striking me this time is I'd either forgotten or I didn't appreciate how much the music that plays not when you get into a situation where you're about to be attacked, but in the sections where you're just kind of walking around and you're hearing, you're constantly hearing the creatures and stuff in the walls and that sort of thing, and the whispering and all that. But how much the music that plays in those moments to me really invokes the calm sections of the score from Alien and Aliens.
yeah.
I'd never noticed that before, but it feels, like it feels deliberate. And it just really hit me when I was playing it last night, actually, that was a thing. But yeah, it's been great to re-experience it. I really hope that this does well enough that they do do a remake of the second one, because the second game was so great. But yeah,
and reimagine the third game as something totally different.
Yeah, or just pretend it never happened and just
pretend it never happened.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean the first one was one of my favorite games. I still have an Ishimura hoodie kicking around.
Nice.
Oh, do you?
Somewhere. Yeah.
Nice.
And I love that game. It's so good. And while I really enjoyed the Callisto Protocol, I am enjoying Dead Space more, I think. And
yeah, that was the other thing playing it today that I was thinking about, is that like playing that I can see like I guess I was thinking like Callisto Protocol, just how it missed the mark on so many elements.
Well, I think it was trying to be different. I
yeah.
appreciate the melee combat stuff that Callisto was doing that Dead Space doesn't do. But I like going back to Dead Space and having the plasma cutter and cutting the limbs off and all that stuff a lot. I like the projectile, the gunplay stuff more in Dead Space than I like the melee stuff in Callisto. I mean, it was fine. I liked it, but I like this more.
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah, and of course, anything that's glowing green, I go pick up or interact with, or any boxes that are glowing blue, I stomp them, like all that fun stuff. It's just it's great. I also played a little of Gotham Knights, so Gotham Knights is one of the games that has a trial on the PS Plus service, and it is an hour-long trial. And Stewie, you played some of
Yeah, I did.
Gotham Knights, right?
Yeah.
Let me say, Gotham Knights does not start off fast in
No.
any way, shape, or form.
No.
I think it's about 15 minutes, maybe 10 to 15 minutes before you even like control a character in Gotham Knights.
Really?
And the fact that it was an hour trial, it was like I was giving it the benefit of the doubt. It's like, okay, it's the beginning of the game. How long can this cutscene really be? Like, I don't want to be the person that skips cutscenes because I'm not usually that person, right? But I've got an hour here before this trial shuts off, and I want to get to some gameplay. But yeah, it wasn't until like I had done maybe the first couple combat encounters and was going out into the city after the half-hour mark had already been hit, and it was like this just isn't a good venue. Like an hour just isn't long enough.
The game doesn't, even if you don't have the 1 hour limit, the game just doesn't start strong, period. Like,
No.
Everything about that game feels like not finished. Like when you get on I forget which character it is. It might be Nightwing, who like can, or maybe Batgirl, who can like sort of travel around the city on rooftops and stuff like that.
Mhm.
And it's okay, but it's not polished at all. I remember the first time I got outside the Belfry and I wanted to like go to a building like over there, and for some reason the auto aim decided to shoot the grappling hook behind me and up, because it was dancing around to different platforms, and that's the one it happened to pick just as I hit the button. And it's like, okay, so literally 30 seconds into the game where you're going to let me traverse the city, I can't go where I want to go. Like it immediately felt broken.
Well, it was 20 minutes and 30 seconds, to be honest, before you get that open city.
30 seconds of where you're actually in control. And like other things, like when you're on the I think it was the Bat Cycle is what I was on. And you're like doing a chase through the city at one point, and it's not moving very fast at all. So they put like the streaks are over the screen to make it look like you're going fast, but like it doesn't help. It's still just, it looks, and there might be a frame rate issue too, because I think it's a 30 frame per second game, which normally doesn't bother me, but it's really noticeable anytime you're driving. It's just the whole world is moving by very slowly.
Yeah. I mean, it's hard. I think it's hard to demo a game like this. An hour is not enough time. I don't know if you have to go the 4 hours that Cyberpunk 2077 did, but longer than an hour, because it feels like almost immediately you're getting the message that your time's almost up, and it's kind of ridiculous. But yeah, I got the feeling too that it didn't feel polished, and it's weird coming from this place where, you know, some of the big comic book licensed games are from Insomniac, and they're extremely highly polished. And then you play something like Gotham Knights, and you're expecting that level of polish because you're just expecting it, right? Like it's just
right,
and you don't get it, and you're like, oh, like that's a little disappointing.
Not to say that if Insomniac Spider-Man didn't exist, that this would feel good,
right?
But it feels that much worse because Spider-Man just controls like butter from the second you have, the second you have control of it. So yeah. Although I will say, like, I got into a couple levels when I was playing, and there was like the stealth stuff I liked. Like it worked pretty well. Like I was in I don't know if it was a museum or something like that. And I was, faced with a big room with a bunch of guards or goons or something that I had to either get past or silently take down. And I was able to do it. And it did feel intuitive. It felt good. So there are moments in that game that do shine, but it feels like you got to dig for them.
Well, actually, I thought the combat seemed really good.
Yeah.
There was a scene where all the characters are kind of standing outside Bruce Wayne's grave and talking, and I think this is this moment where you're supposed to pick which character you want to control. And I was like, they're still talking, do I choose something now, or should I wait until they stop talking?
Right.
Like, they're just going to keep going here, and I don't have a lot of time, folks. So, but yeah, I thought the combat was good. I wished I could have experienced more of it, but it seems like a fine game. I think an hour-long demo, it just isn't enough for a game like
Right.
this. So
I can't imagine that game did very well.
I can't imagine it did either.
So
but
yeah,
yeah,
it's too bad. I love the premise. It was different,
yeah.
but the premise feels different, but the game feels like stitched together parts of better games. Not done as well.
Unfortunate. But yeah, that's pretty much all I've been playing this week. So, Gregory.
I mean, I don't have much more to add. The main game I played this week was Dead Space. And I mean, I played more Gran Turismo 7 because we had our second race of our little Can-Am series, which again, I posted the replay of if people are interested. CJ, I'll put it in the show notes.
Okay.
But yeah, that's it. That's all I got.
All right, now let me ask you this. When Gran Turismo 7 is fully playable in PSVR 2, are you going to play your races in VR versus
I'll
people
tell you,
who are not playing in VR?
I tell you what. I don't know. I'm interested to see how that goes because I know there's a few people in our group that are interested in playing in VR. A couple of people play their PC racing simulators in VR.
Oh.
I just love the fact that I have that option because in the previous game you couldn't. And even if you could, the resolution was so low, relatively speaking, on PSVR 1 that I don't know that you'd want to.
Right.
What I was really happy to hear, among all the other things, like I do love that it's full support for VR. Like that is the way they had to go. They couldn't half-ass it again. So super happy to hear about that. But one of the things that I was interested to hear about was that there were a few different articles calling out how some of the people who had played GT Sport with PSVR got motion sick, which isn't uncommon. But I was one of those people too. But these were people who said like they felt the same way and they sat and played this for I think upwards of an hour and felt fine. Which like that was kind of my big thing. The first video I saw was from IGN and the video was okay, but God, the guy couldn't stop talking about owning a DeLorean. Like it's a 15-minute video, like 9 minutes of which are him talking about how he used to own a DeLorean, and in this game he got to sit in a DeLorean, and it really felt like he was in a DeLorean. And I mean that's fantastic, but it's like you're not really telling me much.
Actually, that's kind of selling the game for me right now.
Yeah, there you go. Right, but I mean, no, that's a big selling point that you can sit in there.
Has there ever been anyone who has owned a DeLorean in recent years who is quiet about it?
No. And
I mean, if you buy a DeLorean in this day and age, that's your personality, right?
That's fair.
You're the guy who owns a DeLorean.
I mean, hell yeah. If I bought a DeLorean, you'd be hearing about it all the time.
But anyway, my point being is that it wasn't telling me much about what the experience was. But then there were some other videos calling that out, because one of the things I was really curious to hear about is like, you know, we saw, I think, especially with Capcom and actually Sony itself, where, you know, where they were using the, I call it an iris effect, but I don't think that's really the proper term, a vignette effect in the Resident Evil game, or Resident Evil 7, I think, where, you know, they were using that to help focus your eyes, and it made like first person movement feel not as disorienting. Yeah. And with Wipeout that had VR support, they did the same thing, because when I first heard it had VR support, I'm like, there's no friggin' way I'm playing Wipeout in VR. Like that's just I'll throw up within the first 30 seconds. It was actually really playable because they had a bunch of different features. Yeah. Yep. So, you know, I knew it was possible. So, and I don't know exactly how or why it's happening. I didn't get that explained. And I don't know that the people who were talking about it ever got any real explanation from Sony or Polyphony as to how or why this was. But it sounds like they've done something to help that. And it might even be as much as the eye tracking in the headset itself, right? Where wherever you're focused is what's being rendered at sort of full tilt, and everything else is
Foveated rendering.
foveated rendering. There you
That's
go.
called.
That might be it. I mean, that might be the thing that's, plus the high resolution and the high frame rate, because I think they said it was playing at a ridiculous frame rate as well, and it was steady, which is important. The only time I heard of anyone sort of getting a little nauseous at it was on one track in particular where there were a lot of elevation changes. Road Atlanta, where you go over, you go around the first turn and it's up a hill, and then you crest the hill and you're immediately going back down the hill, and then you turn left and you're going up the hill again. There's just a lot of elevation changes at really high speeds, and I don't know that you're going to be able to do anything to help that. So, but anyway, I'm excited. I'm really excited about that. And it was, after hearing those reports, I was on the fence about getting VR2. I wanted one, but I was trying to justify it, and I was like, okay, if this whole game is playable, all right, I'm going to go for it. I'm going to do it. So
There you go.
yeah. And maybe, I don't know, maybe Tetris and Res. We'll see.
Maybe you know someone who can hook you up with a copy of that.
Maybe. I'll call Mark McDonald.
Hey, wait. Alrighty. I guess that's it for what you've been playing.
I think so.
Seems
All
to be.
Then I guess that means it's time for tweets.
Oh, twiddly diddly dee. Oh, twiddly diddly dee. Oh, tweet, tweet, Anna. Oh, tweet, tweet.
Alrighty. Let's see. Oh, we got a couple of tweets about this. The one from Insipid Ghost and one from Blarcade about DC Comics and gaming. So Blarcade says DC is planning on using the same actors for films in their video games in the future. Do you see this as a return of the movie tie-in, or things like EA's Star Wars games that live in the same universe but aren't direct adaptations?
I'd say probably the latter.
I would agree with that.
I would say, yeah, most likely that.
Yeah. Or at the most, maybe like a side story type thing.
Right.
But I don't think we're going to see like whatever the next Superman movie is. They'll just be like, here's the video game version of that.
No, I mean, the difficult thing there, of course, is that video games now take a lot of time to make. And if you half-ass it, it can turn out not so great. Even if you whole-ass it, it might not turn out so great, right? So
I remember though, like you remember when that sort of thing was starting to happen, where this is getting really exciting. Like we've got synergy between the games and the movies, not just necessarily like a movie adaptation, but even something like The Matrix. Like The Matrix was trying to go across all these different forms of media, and it was really exciting. It didn't work, but
no, it didn't.
But the idea was so exciting, right?
Yeah.
And it's just like, oh, I wish that had gone better. But with the Animatrix and Matrix, whatever that first shiny Matrix game was, that was terrible. Yeah.
Well, they even they did that Matrix Online game, right?
It was an online,
that MMORPG. Yep.
And that had like plot stuff that happened in that game that they were trying to like.
It was
this is canon.
Yeah. It was very ambitious. And
Yeah.
The idea of it was very exciting.
I wonder what James Gunn. I mean, this isn't DC, but it's back to Marvel. I wonder if he
James
played
Gunn
Guardians.
is running the DCU now.
I know now he is, but I wonder what he thinks of the Guardians of the Galaxy game that's Square Enix did. But anyway, that's Marvel. That's not DC. So, yeah.
It also seems. I mean, I'm sure the idea is there, the desire to do it is there, but I wonder the reality of we want all of our actors to also voice all their characters in like the cartoons and the video games. Because it's like,
just get them to sign a contract where AI can do it.
That's yeah, really. Because it's like that's going to be expensive. And
whatever publisher signs up for that too.
Yeah,
it's gonna be expensive for them.
Marvel tried to do that a bit with like, what is it? The What If show, on Disney Plus, which is the animated series,
Mhm.
yeah.
which is, it's a canon MCU thing. And they do have a lot of the actors reprising their roles, but that cartoon can't afford Robert Downey Jr.
Right.
You know?
Right. Not for a 60-hour epic.
Well, and that's the other thing too. Yeah.
Shorter games, maybe based on those.
Yeah.
So
No, that's a really good point. And when you consider that with the DC movie universe,
Mhm.
you're not coming from the position of strength they would in Marvel. I mean, it's got such a spotty past at this point,
Right.
with the reboots and the terrible movies. And yeah, I don't know. Getting someone to sign on might be tough.
Yeah.
Hmm.
But we'll see.
True.
It would be nice.
All right, let's do this one from hacker alias Martez3C, who says, after a year of delaying the release of Advance Wars 1 and 2 Reboot Camp due to Nintendo's views on the Ukraine conflict, is any other title in the history of video games you remember been delayed for another political or cause support? I mean, there were games, what was that?
Propeller
9/11.
Arena.
Propeller Arena that
Yep.
got canceled.
Yep.
After
And it was
9/11.
reviewable. We had reviewable code, I think, wasn't it?
Yes, indeed it was.
Yep.
But
I
yeah,
remember
certainly
Project-
9/11 shook up more than one game.
Was Project Gotham Racing delayed for that? I want to
don't
say it
know.
was. I know that Metal Gear Solid 2 underwent changes.
The second Spider-Man PS1 game.
The whole ending changed.
Yep. Yeah,
Right.
the final boss fight of that was I
between
think
the
you were
towers.
bouncing between the two towers.
Yep.
Yeah.
Hmm.
I mean, I don't know. Yeah. You saying political reasons. I mean, I guess that. Yeah. I guess that's a political reason.
Stalker 2 being developed in Ukraine got delayed because
But isn't that delayed because they're, at war?
at war. Yeah, exactly. So that's not exactly the same.
I don't know if we want to count the disaster report game
Oh,
that was due out like
right.
a week after the big earthquake.
Oh,
yes.
There was a MotorStorm game as well that was delayed because of that.
Because of the earthquake?
One of the MotorStorm games, because the whole thing. I'll have to look up which one, but one of the MotorStorm games was delayed for the same reason.
Oh,
interesting, huh?
I'm almost positive. Pacific
but yeah,
Crest, maybe?
that disaster report game was,
Yeah.
I think
Basically
it was
canceled.
essentially.
until
I mean, we did get,
we eventually got it
but like years later, right?
just recently, right? For PS4 and
I
I
don't know if
3 years ago.
I
4
think
years
it's been
ago. Yeah.
it's been a couple years at this point.
Yeah. Do you guys run into this where you think like, oh, well, that happened in 2015. 2015
Oh, yeah,
doesn't
constantly.
feel, it feels like yesterday, but
Yes.
in actuality,
Yeah,
8 years
every
ago.
friggin' day.
Disaster Report 4 was released in 2018,
Okay.
which was, I mean,
Even 2018 feels like yesterday.
yeah,
but
but it
it's
was,
not.
yeah.
All right. Let's do this one from Hacker Alias Captain Logan, who says, well, he has 3 questions here.
Well, hold on a second. That's
That's
no,
Cheating the system.
can't do that.
For all, have you worked on a live service game?
Any of us worked on a live service game?
Have any of us?
No.
I have.
Not directly.
Yeah.
No.
I worked on mobile games and those.
But sorry, just to follow up on this, it was MotorStorm Apocalypse.
Oh,
It was delayed, indefinitely. It did eventually come out after the earthquake and tsunami in Japan in 2011. God, 2011.
2011.
oh man.
So if we answered that with a no, here's the question for no. Is the live service model a smart choice for a studio looking to launch a game?
I haven't done games in a while. But I know sort of the last time I was part of game development, I mean, we were only doing mobile stuff at that point.
Yeah.
But man, live service or even just modern games, especially mobile games where you have to constantly patch, you got to spend a lot of money up front to hope you're going to make money, is my experience.
Mm-hmm.
And live service, I mean, it's that much worse, right? Like you got to have people running that game, got to pay them.
You do. That's true. I think the allure of the live service game is that the upside could be tremendous. Like you look at some
Right.
successful live service games, and you could say that Epic Games, their current state, is entirely made by Fortnite.
It
Right.
is at this point. I mean, that's what they focus on.
So you look at that, and or any game company, any investors are going to look at what's successful in the gaming market in terms of what's making the most money, and it's live service games, right?
Right.
Not necessarily looking at all of the things you have to do to make a live service game work. And we have had, just this week, I saw a news story that was like 9 live service games this week announced that they were shutting down. And yeah, because it takes a lot to run those, like constant updates. You have to keep people engaged in the game, and there are so many other games vying for that attention, right? So it's an expensive proposition, even though the upside is incredibly huge if you happen to make a game that hits like Fortnite did,
right,
or PUBG before it. And yeah, is it a smart choice? Maybe.
I think it could be if you know what you're getting into.
If you know what you're getting into,
you have a good business plan.
I personally, this is my personal opinion on the subject, is I think any game that comes out, you should look at it like a live service game, in that you want to make sure that there's a community around your title. Like you could look at a game like Dead Cells or Rogue Legacy 2 or Hades, and it's like, how can you continue to engage the people that are liking that content? It's by making more of it. And the Dead Cells creators, for a start, I don't know if you would call it a live service game, but they have sure as heck added a lot of content to that game since it came out. And of course, they're not selling a lot of that through microtransactions, although it does have premium DLC that you can buy. In part, they're keeping it in gamers' minds by adding all this content, people going back to it and playing it, right? So I think that is more important of a lesson than look at Fortnite or Rumbleverse or Halo Infinite or Rocket League. Like, those are going to be once in a while hits, and nobody expected those, right? When Fortnite launched, PUBG was the biggest thing ever. Nobody could have thought that Fortnite was about to dethrone that game, right? Or when Rocket League launched into PlayStation Plus, no one would have guessed that that was going to be so huge, because the game that Psyonix did before that was very much the same game.
Yep.
Did very poorly. So, yeah, I mean, one of the next question here from Logan is, what are some of the things you do to prepare for the game to perform poorly? Well, that's the thing. You prepare for it to perform well, and you have a contingency plan for if it goes well or if it goes poorly, right? So you have a certain amount of content mapped out that you can then do, and not like completely break the bank, but to like, stoke the flames, maybe be a catalyst for like, is this thing going to take off? And then if it does, you're rolling, you can continue it. Whereas you're not starting from zero, where you'd have to like drum up all that stuff from nothing. And maybe by the time you have new content, the audience is already gone. Right.
Right.
So nobody running a live service game or a live service style game is going to prepare for it to perform poorly. But I think that's it got to be in everybody's head. when they launch something like this. Like, fingers crossed, like this does well, and we can go ham on our content roadmap. But you look at a game like Evil Dead from Focus Home. Well, who did Evil Dead? Can't remember now. Saber Interactive. That game did well out of the gate. It really started doing good numbers, and they just put out a battle royale mode in it. But I highly doubt that battle royale mode that we're getting now was specifically planned as, yes, we're going to do that 1 year out from launch when that game launched, right? Like, that was sort of probably a stretch goal, something they would look into if the game did well, and it did. So they put it in there. Anyway, that's all I have to say about that. All right. I mean, you look at it, you go, look,
it's Captain not all you had to say about that.
Okay. All right, we got some toots as well.
Ooh,
from our Mastodon account. I like this one from listener Ryan Lockhart, friend of the show.
Ryan Lockhart. Wow.
Yeah.
Apologies if this question has been asked before, but what was your favorite magazine you didn't write for, and why was it Game Fan?
I'll tell you what, Game Fan was one of them.
Yeah.
Oh, it absolutely was.
Of course.
Yes.
Yep. That just scratched the itch when that came out, especially as a Sega fan.
Yes, indeed.
I mean,
Sega.
From the time that Game Fan was an advertiser in EGM, like, those ads were almost as good as the content of the whole magazine that I was reading. And then
I learned about a lot of games. Yep. I learned at least the names of a lot of games that I didn't learn from other magazines from those diehard ads.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Now, of course, hearing about the conditions people had to endure having worked at Game Fan, I think I am lucky to have not worked there.
Yeah.
I think you can, and it's with our after show, we do this a lot too. And I think you can say this about any magazine. I mean, I go back and look at the EGMs that I was a part of and cringe at some of the things we wrote. Yeah. But a lot of and no offense to Ryan, I'm not talking about the era that he was there, because I was into that magazine before he was there. But man, going back and looking at old Game Fans, the unbridled enthusiasm shows through, and that was always the best part. That and the screenshots were the best part of that magazine. But man, they don't hold up otherwise. They just don't.
It doesn't, but honestly, a lot of the magazines of that era also don't.
They don't. Yeah, exactly.
They don't hold up. I hate reading anything I wrote back.
Oh, absolutely.
Oh yeah,
I can't do it.
It's rough.
It hurts reading any of that old stuff.
In one of these after shows, I reread my review of Donkey Kong 64 and was horrified at just about every line in that thing.
My whole thing looking back, especially from that era, the early 2000s, is how hard so many of us wanted, or so many of these magazines wanted to be lad mags. And that whole thing is just so cringe now. Although that's the way it was then. I mean, that was a big thing then.
Early 2000s.
Yeah. But other magazines too, other than Game Fan, which of course is what Ryan wanted us to say. But I used to love video games and computer entertainment.
I was going to say the same thing.
Yeah. That magazine was great.
It really was.
Yeah. Loved it.
I got to write for Intelligent Gamer.
Nice.
When that was a thing, Craig Kuyava and Jer Horowitz and John Riccardi.
Was Pete Bartholow part of that magazine too?
I think so. Yeah.
He was a big help to us when we were getting Gaming Age off the ground. He's a great guy.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I forget the name of his studio.
Have you? I think it's changed.
Has it?
He started a new studio.
But anyway,
have you seen him recently though? He's huge. He's ripped.
Yeah. Oh yeah. He's swole.
He's frightening. Like he can smash me. I'm 6'3".
He really got in. He was really getting into fitness like 20 years ago. So I'm not surprised.
Yeah.
And of course, Next Generation. When that
Oh, yeah.
magazine came on the scene, it was like nothing else, and I loved that right up until we hired most of their people away. I'm
Did
just
we
kidding.
hire most?
But Jen
Jen
Tsao came from there. Jen Tsao came from there.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
She did. Yeah.
And I think one of the who was the art director we hired when we moved to California? Because Cy and everybody stayed behind.
Monique.
Monique, didn't she come from there too, or am I wrong about that?
Maybe from Future.
She came from Future. Okay.
Or Imagine. Was it
Whatever.
Imagine at that point? Yeah.
But anyway, I still have all my next gens down on the bookshelf at the end of my hall. They're they hold up. There's a magazine that holds up. It read very much like, and I mean, it's just Edge. I shouldn't say it's just Edge, but it's based on Edge. But
although next gen reviews were always terrible.
They were always terrible. You didn't
Even
read
back
in
the day.
But man, the interviews and the articles and those, like, because it read like a trade magazine, but it was just sort of for the public enough that it was fascinating to read.
Right.
It was a completely new take on video game magazines at the time. And when that first issue came out, I drove around
the Virtua Fighter issue.
Yep.
Virtua Fighter issue. I drove to like a GameStop or maybe like a Software Etc. Was that still around then?
Probably.
Far away to get like a first copy of Next Gen.
Really?
Because it was so exciting that it was coming out, right?
You remember where you got it?
I remember where I bought Next Gen. My first Next Gen.
No.
Yeah, it was it was an old newsstand on a place, or Spring Garden Road is the name of the street here. But I was just thinking that's something that I don't think a lot of people will do anymore. But me and my best friend, that was one of the things we do every couple of weeks. So we go to the newsstand and check out the new magazines. And it was just sitting on the shelf there one day. He's like, "What's this?"
Yeah.
Oh my God, this is amazing. And again, as Sega fans, it had a Virtua Fighter cover. And I think it was Yu Suzuki was the interview in there talking about Saturn game development. So it's just like, oh, this is amazing. It was a long form interview. You don't see those in video game magazines.
You see, I'm asking CJ where he got it
from you.
Well, no, because I would have some frame of reference.
I don't remember, but I had to go down closer to the city on I-55.
Oh, okay.
It was like really far away from where I lived. So yeah, I called ahead. I let my fingers do the walking.
Oh yeah,
called ahead to see if they had Next Generation magazine, and they did. And
wow,
I was like, "Mom, let's get in the car.
We got to go to the Chicago Ridge Mall."
Exactly.
Although that's not on 55. So
no. 95.
And for what it's worth, I was a big fan of EGM in the 90s.
Me too.
Well,
who wasn't?
Till CJ got there.
Exactly.
Not really a fan. Be honest, when I got hired to work at EGM, I hadn't read the magazine for like 4 years.
Yeah.
Sorry, late.
You say that EGM like it's a bad thing.
Just saying.
Like, I think bringing people in who weren't necessarily already a fan of the content was a good idea. Like, you need somebody to do something different, right?
That's fair.
EGM went through that weird kind of
roly-poly fish heads phase.
Floating head phase, yeah.
Yeah.
And they covered
that was where I
PC
tuned
games
out
for a small period.
Oh, I remember that.
It was terrible.
Yeah.
I hated that.
Ugh.
Yeah. Well, anyway, I think we're done with this episode.
Oh, really?
Unless you have something you want to say.
Phil said that like he had something else to talk about.
Do you?
I've compiled a list of why I feel Big Bang Theory is an insult to gamers everywhere.
I'd love to hear it, but it's a list I've probably heard 100 times already.
Alrighty, and that is our show for this week. Thank you very much for listening. If you have a question for us or would like to comment on something you heard, you can direct that to @P1Podcast on the Twitter. You can direct that to @P1Podcast on Mastodon.social as well. You can also visit our website, playeronepodcast.com. There you'll find our contact information. You'll find blog entries about Sega CD stuff from Mr. Greg Seward. You'll also find Generation 16 episodes as they occur.
Which they do
From time to time. And you'll also find show notes and links to all the things that we talked about, and a link to our Discord server where you can discuss this episode with us and our other listeners.
If you would like to subscribe to the Player One Podcast, you can do so by visiting player1podcast.com or by booting up your favorite podcast listening app. We're also on Stitcher Radio. We're on Spotify. You can like us on Facebook. You can watch video archives of our show on the youtubes.com/P1 podcast, or you can watch us live most weeks on the YouTubes, the Twitters, Facebooks, Twitch.televisions, every darn place. Just follow our Twitter account or our Mastodon account, which is just
latest toots.
Yeah, see all of our toots.
Latest toots.
And it's at P1 Pod. Is it at P1 Podcast on the Mastodons as well?
At mastodon.social, yes.
There you go. Whatever the layout
Whatever
for that
CJ
is.
said.
To find out when we do our next live show, typically, it is Sunday nights at 5:30 a specific time. So join us, won't you? And I'll tell you what, if you like what you've heard, and how could you, head over to patreon.com/P1 podcast. Throw a few shekels our way. The CJ is building up a fund to recreate the set of Young Sheldon, his favorite sitcom. The CBS has not done it themselves, but CJ has a plan in place. He's already rented out a warehouse.
No.
Where the set will be built?
No, I'm actually doing a recreation of the set of Small Wonder.
You too can go get a picture taken in Vicky's closet. How exciting would
that be? Then after that,
be?
we're tackling Mr. Belvedere.
You too can recreate the famous time when Mr. Belvedere sat on his own testicles.
Wasn't that every episode?
Did that happen?
He was very upset with young Wesley that day. Let me tell you.
Why was he upset with Wesley that day?
It was a bet.
It was a bet.
No, your Patreon funds help keep our show floating and streaming and all that stuff. And I'll tell you what, if you are a Patreon supporter of the $5 tier,
cheap,
you gain access to a special weekly bonus episode. CJ alluded to it earlier. We record it right after this.
Yeah.
We play games, crack wise, having fun doing all the stuff we can't do on the regular show. I mean, we probably could do it. We just choose not to. Because we do it in our bonus show. CJ, do we have a game?
No, we don't, Phil.
Oh.
No game. It's going to be kind of a quiet after show. No, yes, we do have a game. We have we have a Jeopardy quiz.
How nice.
From hacker alias Keenad.
Very nice.
Hey, I know that guy.
Yeah.
Do we know? Is it a themed?
Yes, it is themed quiz. It is a test of our early EGM knowledge.
Interesting.
Okay.
So before any of us worked there. So
okay, now
we said we were fans of the magazine. Let's see how
we did. We did read the magazine from the earliest days. Is it going to be like this isn't some sort of elaborate trick like that? Oh, we're going to test your NES history, and then like we all remember what happened.
The Hudson Hawk issue of EGM.
Oh, that's my favorite issue. That weird cutout photo of Bruce Willis on the cover.
Yeah,
absolutely. Okay, so join us. For some...
I mean, clearly they invited him to the office to take that picture.
They invited the cutout.
It was a standee from the Blockbuster.
They went to Party City, and you guys got any Bruce Willis cutouts? We have one left in the back.
It's from Hudson Hawk. Have fun.
Perfect. Okay, so join us for some EGM trivia in our after show. You know what? CJ, our dear friend CJ, puts up some of the old bonus episodes from years prior on the Thursday nights on our regular podcast feed. So if you want a taste, if you are not a Patreon friend, that'll give you a sneak peek, and then you can go check out the new stuff for just $5. $5 a month. What a deal.
Yeah.
Hey, I'll tell you what, if you have a couple bucks left over, head over to patreon.com /Greg Seward, where you can help support Greg's outstanding, and it is outstanding, web series about North America's favorite runner-up, the Sega Genesis.
Thank you, Philip. And if you are a patron of the $5 variety,
also cheap.
just like a couple of new $5 patrons, I believe Keenad is one of them, and CJ is one of the new $5 patrons as well. They, along with you, will have access to the Weekly Commute, which is a weekly vlog series that I do talking about what I'm working on, sort of the status of the latest episode of Generation 16, other videos I'm working on, other blog stuff, other podcast stuff, what I really think of CJ and Phil, what really happened in the moon landing, and everything else that I can't talk about on the show. So please consider going and becoming a patron. All that money goes back into the show, and I really appreciate your support.
Yeah. Yeah, it does. And yeah, he does.
It's true. I wouldn't lie.
That it?
That's
I
it.
think that's it.
Well, CJ.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Phil.
Hey, I'll tell you what, my friend. I'll be there for you.
Thanks, Phil.
Right?
It's pretty good.
Like
That was good. Yeah.
the callback.
Yeah. Pretty good having never seen the show.
Thank you.
You knew that bit.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Gregory.
Yo.
What would we do, baby, without us, Greg? Sha-na-na-na.
Sha-na-na-na.
Thank you, Greg.
Thank you, Phil.
And of course, let me go thank you to you. Yes, you are wonderful, wonderful listeners. Every single one of you. And remember, as always, please take care of yourself, your loved one, your family, your friends. Do what you gotta do to be safe. Have a good time. Be nice to each other. We love all of you. And we hope to see you next week. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.